Marriage can win, right?
Bingo.
Welcome to the Marriage Can Win show. We are your hosts, Eric and Dr. Sakisha Hollick, your relationship expert. And we are so excited tonight for our special guest. But for all of you out there, let us know where are you from, what city and what location you are. And if you have questions, go ahead and type it in the chat. We'll bring it on the show.
Yes. Now, here at Marriage Can Win, we educate, empower, and encourage couples to embrace that marriage can win, especially when you focus on three key areas: improving your communication skills, developing sound money management skills, and enhancing your level of intimacy so your marriage can win. Now, tonight we have a dynamic guest with us. This is going to be a phenomenal evening. And you know what's such a blessing? Our speaker focuses and helps women that are single and married. So you're going to get both sides of the coin. So if you're a married woman, grab your single friends. If you're a single friend, grab your married friends, because it is about to go down. We have a dynamic guest with us, and I'm saying all that to say it's going to be power packed. Make sure that you have your pen and your paper ready to take plenty of notes, because this is going to be a phenomenal evening. So join me in welcoming to the Marriage Can Win show none other than Kimberly Cleveland.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Kimberly?
I am wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here on your platform. So excited to be here tonight.
Oh, well, thank you. And my apologies. I forgot to mention, she is the good thing guru. So I'm sure you're like, oh my goodness. So for all of our listeners, why don't you tell them a little bit about you for those who may not be familiar with you?
Absolutely. So I'm Kimberly Cleveland. I am a certified life coach, international speaker, blogger, author. I am a ladies ministry leader. I'm also an event producer. And so I have a son who is 20, soon to be 21. I am single, previously married. I'm divorced. And so I started, I am the CEO and founder of The Wife University. And what I do is help single women become and wives be that good thing. Scripture says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And I am dedicated and passionate about helping women to become amazing wives and have successful marriages. And that's why I started The Wife University. This year, we've been on that journey of becoming a good thing. We know that, you can be a good woman, but not necessarily be a good wife. It takes a certain skill set. So we've been really just focusing on becoming what it takes to become good women, what it takes to become good wives. And so, again, we've been on this dynamic journey this year of becoming that good thing.
Now, Kimberly, you said something that is so phenomenal. So I hope everyone that's watching this, share it out, invite your friends. But you said something. You said you can be a good woman, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good wife. And that's a characteristic, I think, that a lot of people overlook. They assume because I'm a good woman, automatically I'm going to be a good wife. Right. So can I have you share with our listeners a little bit or some of those characteristics that you'd be able to recognize, this is something I may want to work on if I'm going to be a good wife?
Absolutely. At the Wife University, we're definitely all about preparation. God revealed to me that, we spend so much time focusing on our education. Many of us, of course, graduate from high school. That's 12 years. Many of us go on to college, another 4 years. Many of us go on to get our master's and doctorate degrees, right? So we have years invested in our education and career. But when it comes to marriage, we don't usually invest that same amount of time. And so at the Wife University, I endeavor again, to really focus in on the preparation aspect. Why? Because again, you can be a good woman, you can grab a hold of a good man, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a good husband. If they haven't focused in and prepared themselves for that role, it is a role that comes with responsibilities. And I always tell the women that I coach, it's just like you going out on a job interview, right? You can be a good person, but if you don't have the skill set for that job, you're not going to do well in the job. And so again, we grab a hold of a good woman or a good man thinking that just because they're a good woman or a good man, that they'll be a good spouse. But it does take a certain skill set to be a good woman and to be a good husband and to be a good wife. And I think too, that's why a lot of marriages are failing, because people haven't developed those skills. They may even have the tools, but they don't know how to use the tools. And so again, I really focus in on helping women develop and prepare to be wives and to develop those skills and to have the strategies to really be able to navigate marriage.
Now, you said something very important, that they may have the tools. Now, are you finding that there are some of the couples that we work with, some of them, they were never taught these tools. They were never equipped with the tools. They were basically emulating what they saw based on their parents, their grandparents. Some of them, for the younger generation, it's what they see on TV. Right. And they didn't really have an idea of what it takes to get to be a good wife or to be a good husband. So what we talked a lot about, say, the responsibility, as I don't want to say whose responsibility is it, but of course, as coaches, we can definitely play a role in that. But prior to them getting to us, it's really, really important for the fathers to have conversations with their daughters so they understand what you're looking for. Because right now, when we look at social media, it's giving us a distorted view of what lots of good relationship is about, or what a good wife is, or a good husband. It's kind of watered down, and that's impacting this generation. So what are your feelings, or what's your take on that?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I am a faith-based woman, and so I really focus in on really God's design, God's divine design. He's the one who created marriage, right? So he must know how he intended for it to work. And so I really try to go back to the basics and really peel back and uncover, what did God have in mind? What was his design? We tend to live in a microwave society or a Burger King society where we think we can just make it our own way, right? Absolutely. And it doesn't work. We think we can do it our own way, but it doesn't work. And again, so we have to go back to that divine design. And again, scripture says that, the older women should train up the younger women. But a lot of times, again, we're so focused on particularly teaching our Black children to focus on their education, right? So much so that we don't really say, okay, well, one day you're going to want to be a husband, or one day you're going to want to be a wife. And so I need to also instill in you those skills so that you can be a good husband and be a good wife.
Right. And that's really, really important. I think that these days, even, of course, it's not something they're going to teach I don't want to say in school, but those are even courses that we can incorporate when we're raising and training up our children. You know how they say train up a child in the way in which they should go. And we're we're teaching them about scripture. We'll teach them to get an education. But what about teaching them in life in general? Because like you're saying, they don't necessarily have these tools. Right. Now, God has given us these tools, but we have to make sure we're communicating them to others. We have to be,
and making the application is so important. Again, a lot of the skills of being a good woman, they do roll over into being a wife, but you need to know how to translate that. How does that shift? Because again, as women, we're wired different than men. So again, I may have the tool of communication. I can speak, I can talk, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I know how to use my tool when it comes to marriage and talking to a male, or talking to my husband more specifically.
There's some, when we originally started communicating, and I was reading a lot about you, and you were talking about, you took a leap of faith, since we're talking about our belief in God. And let's talk a little bit more about that leap of faith that you took, because a lot of times as women, I'm only speaking from the women's perspective, that there are times we allow things like fear to hold us back from stepping out into what God is calling us to do, because it feels uncomfortable, not knowing that sometimes, or most times, what God's called us to do is going to be in that other side of your comfort zone. You're going to have to step outside of that. So let's talk a little bit about that faith, that leap of faith that you took.
Absolutely. You know, I've always wanted to be a wife and a mother. I knew that at a very young age, even before I knew what I wanted to do in terms of education and career. I knew that. That was a deep desire that God had planted within me, right? And so I did get married shortly after getting out of college. But unfortunately, like I said, my marriage did end divorce. And so because that was my greatest desire, because that was my dream, I was devastated. You know, and so I endeavored to figure out, what is it, God, that you had in mind? And not only was I going through divorce, but many of those friends around me were also going through divorce. Many of the people who I attended church with were having difficulties in their marriages. And I was like, God, what is going on? What's wrong? And so as I endeavored to discover for myself, again, just really taking a time out from dating to really discover again, what did you have in mind, God? What did you intend for the wife? What did you intend for the husband? And as he was revealing this to me, God placed it on my heart. Okay, now that you know, I want you to go out and teach others. And so I was kind of had that Moses experience, like, who, me, the divorced woman, who you want me to go out and teach on this thing called marriage? And he was like, yes, you. Who better to teach on it than someone who has actually gone through the fire and made mistakes, and who has a heart, who can empathize with other people who are also facing, challenges in their marriages? Who better than to speak? And so, that was a part of my leap of faith, because I was fearful. I did have to contend with, who are you to call yourself, a relationship coach or a marriage coach when you've gone through divorce, not one divorce, but 2 divorces. So to be quite honest, yes, it was a huge leap of faith for me to say, okay, God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be obedient to this call. Like I said, I've always been passionate about marriage and relationships. I've always been the ladies ministry leader and always talking about relationships and marriage, because that was the greatest desire of my heart. So whenever you would find me in a conversation, that's what I would be talking about: love, marriage, and relationships. So, and so I think God was just like, look, you're going to use that, not only your passion, but this pain to really take that leap of faith and start the Wife University, so that you can help others not go through that same thing that you went through, so that you can help others, again, figure out what this divine design is and help them to have successful marriages.
Now, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I say that because how are wives, since this is wives, how they're going to know that they need to learn how to be a wife if their parents are not sharing it with them, or their mother is not sharing it to their daughters? So that's what I'm saying. What comes first? So especially now, if you have a home and the wife doesn't know how to be a good wife, who's going to be able to pour into that daughter?
Right. Well, again, the proof is in the pudding. Even if she's not married, you say, how does she know? Because she's going through relationships, right? She's going through relationships and she's not having any success at relationships. Let's just start there. And again, so, most women dream of being a wife, right? It's instilled in us. It's like you said, on TV and all the Disney movies, that one day this prince is going to come and he's just going to carry you off and you're going to live happily ever after. But we as women, again, are having difficulties, men and women, in relationships. We can't figure it out. And so now we have a society who doesn't even really believe that happy, successful marriages is even possible. Like, they've just given up. And that's another reason why I started the Wife University, because I firmly believe, even after going through 2 divorces, that no, this thing is great. This thing is wonderful. God created it. There's nothing better than this. And it's upon me, upon my heart, to make sure that people know you can have a successful marriage. You can win at marriage. And so I think, it's no mystery that people are having trouble. It's all around us, whether it's in the church or out of the church. And like you said, the dilemma becomes, we really have to, as coaches, get people to realize it's okay to ask for help. It's okay that you invest in one of the most important roles that you'll have, which, and again, in one of the most important relationships that you'll have, because this is supposed to be until death do you part. So, you should be making the investment.
Well, you know what? I applaud you, Kimberly, because a lot of times we allow things like fear to hold us back from stepping into what God's called us to do, because we're concerned about what others may think. Because we went through that same thing, being that I came from a single mom. She's married and divorced twice. My husband came from a lineage where I think the parents married and divorced 3 times. Right. My grandfather at 94, when he passed away, was on his 4th marriage. So when God started putting that on our heart to pour into married couples, and we were like, wait a minute, God, you sure you want us to do this? Right. But the truth is, he qualifies, or he equips those who he calls. That's right. You know, it's not going, everybody's walk is not going to be the same. He's going to use a submitted vessel. And you're saying, look, God, this is what I have a passion for. And he's going to say, I don't care about your past. Better yet, I'm going to use you as my vessel and use your past as a teaching tool to teach and train others. She's been through this. She's got experience. She can tell you the do's and don'ts. So whatever everybody else thinks, it doesn't really matter, because guess what? You're doing what God called you to do, and he's going to take care of all of them, because the same people that are questioning your call will be the same one that are going to have to call you later on. Right, exactly. And it's not to brag, but it's to say, you know what? When God calls you to do something, I struggled with that a long time as a wife when they said, hey, I want you to start working with couples. And I'm like, I'm not sure that was God saying that, because...
But you know what? If you've never been through anything, then you can't teach anyone anything, right? It really does start there. And I also think about, too, the couples and the women, if they were being taught by a perfect couple, it would almost feel like, well, they're perfect. They don't really understand what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I a lot of times I think of it in that perspective. And I'm just so grateful for any of those people that God gives me, whether it's 1 or whether it's 30. It is just so fulfilling for me to really see the lights go off, for the mindset shift change, and to hear how they're having successful relationships and successful marriages.
And that's the important thing. Allow God to use you and continue to flow in it. And that's why we were like, yes, we want to connect with Kimberly. We want her to come on the show, because this is important. I want other people to understand, what? We go through trials and tests all the time. We've been through it in our marriage. And that's why we share with other couples. We tell everybody, we are not perfect. We've been there, went through all the things, the slam doors, should I stay or should I go? Right. To be able to show them that through it all, you're able to navigate that. Let's try to bounce back. And being able to help those couples, or to help those that are in need help. To me, that's the most rewarding thing. So let's talk a little bit more about it, because we talked about your finding purpose in your pain and how you're impacting others, which is a blessing. So what other things do you feel contribute to say, I'd say, let's talk about the single women for a little bit, because there's some that want to be wise, but are they really aware of what it's going to take, like you said, to become a wife? And are they willing to roll up their shoulders? We have a comment. It says, for Chanel, says she believes wives should have a relationship with Christ and know the word. I never had my mom teach me. My relationship with God taught and still teaching me how to be a wife. A marriage should be built on the foundation of Christ. And that's true, Chanel. We definitely agree with you. And what we're saying is that a lot of times there are people that, and I'm grateful because my husband led me back to the Lord. But say for those who don't know God, for those of us as believers, the knowledge that we should share with others. Right. There's not everyone's home situation is not going to be the same. I don't know what's going on in everybody's household. Right. But what I know is what I've learned, what I've experienced, and what God has equipped us to do, what God's equipped you to do. So it's really important to share that information. You know, sometimes sharing that information gives you that opportunity to open the door and to witness to them. Then they're able to receive God through, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, people start talking to us about marriage. And when we start talking about it and the impact that God had on our marriage, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. So what was that book you were reading again? What were, you know, and it opens up the door to be able to talk to them. Sometimes they won't receive the word of God if you're just, you know, talking to them. But then once you have that conversation, you build a relationship with them and they start to see, sometimes your life is simply all the God that they will know or that they will see.
Right. Yeah.
And it speaks volumes to them. So,
and you know, you made a great point, and she made a great point. I think, you know, you have to be authentic. People want to respond to your authenticity, right? And so when they really, a lot of times people don't want to reveal their dirty laundry, so to speak, right? But it's only when we do that that people can really say, hey, you know, you're real. And it's only when we reveal our dirty laundry that we can really begin to help someone else. So if we keep all that information to ourselves, what we went through and how we got through it, then we'll never help somebody else succeed, right? And then, you know, with the Wife University, Chanel was saying, that's exactly where I start. A lot of times people think I'm going to start with, you know, communication or finances or sex, because those are the top three reasons people have divorce. But I always start with my ladies is, how is your relationship with God? We really need to figure out, do you have an intimate relationship with God? Because he's the one that's going to lead us and guide us about his divine design, right? He's the one that step number two I was talking is, what pain of the past do you need to be healed from? What baggage are you carrying that might be inhibiting you? He's the one who's going to be able to help you to heal from those things. And that's why it's so important that we start there. Where is your relationship with Christ? And again, we have to start with him to lead us and guide us, because he's the one who created this institution of marriage. And so if we want to be successful, we have to definitely be hooked into him. Yeah.
And that's really, really key. All right. I'm just making sure we addressed all the comments. I thought Chanel was putting something else, but Chanel, she's an amazing woman. We connected with her. And the Master Storytelling a couple years Academy. Ago, powerful prayer warrior. We're gonna have to see if we can get her on one of the calls too. I just think you brought up a really, really key point, and you're talking about your relationship with God and how that can impact you, because when you're looking to be in relationship with someone else, you know, you have to have a solid foundation with Christ, and you have to be whole yourself. Sometimes we have people that are looking to become married or get into a relationship because they feel that that's going to complete them. But you have to be whole in and of yourself. You have to love yourself. You cannot put it for someone else to do. Have that relationship with God. And make sure you have that relationship here together before you can go vertically, before you go horizontal. Yes. And that's really, really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you said something else that was very good, that self-love piece. You can't really love someone else until you learn how to love yourself, right? God says, love yourself and then love your neighbor. So it really starts with you. You can't love someone else if you don't really know how to love you. And so we start there too. Do you have a good, healthy self-love? If you don't, we need to work on that, because that's going to affect your self-esteem. That's going to affect your confidence. That's going to affect the mates that you're choosing, the people that you're dating, because again, hurting people seek out hurting people. So as you talked about, you need to be whole. You never be perfect. Let's make that clear. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to have stuff that you're dealing with. But a lot of times we know there's stuff that we swept under the rug. We know there's stuff that we're running from, you know, that we haven't dealt with. For me, it was abandonment by my father. And that affected every romantic relationship that I got in, because it had to deal with trust. Was he going to leave me? Could I trust you? Do you really love me? And so again, a lot of times we've got to deal with that pain of the past, so that we can begin to love someone else and learn what it means, like we said, to be this good thing.
Yeah. Now, I love that you say being that good thing, because to me, that reflects a level of confidence that you have in who God called you to be. That good thing. And to me, that's a level and something that I stress to young ladies, and like I deal and I have conversations with lots of teens because I have a teenage daughter. One is getting ready to go to college. So talking to her and her friends, we talk a lot about confidence because they'll talk about dating and relationships. And I was like, wait a minute. First, we got to make sure what's going on inside here is right before you try connecting with anybody else and allowing them to impact and influence how you see yourself. You know, whatever they're saying to you, you know, if they're complimenting you, that should be just confirmation of who you already know you are on the inside. So I think that is really, really important.
Well, I can only emphasize and agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Before you really get into a relationship, and especially before you get married, you must first of all know your identity in yourself and your identity in Christ, and also deal with the insecurities and the confidence in yourself. And deal with the past, like you say, baggage. Because you don't want the person, as far as the wives, you don't want the husband to become a bellhop, always having to carry your bags everywhere you go. Right. You know, so we want to be able to leave those baggage, you know, where in the past, because that baggage would just weigh down the relationship and cause there to be really division, frustration, and affliction, and so. But that's always something because it depends. And we've known from in the past that 8 to 9 times out of 10, women have been victims or have experienced some sort of trauma, whether it's domestic or sexual or intimacy, you know, trauma in the past that's going to cause them to have walls up, not only emotionally, but physically. When it comes to having intimacy, they become what we call frigid, frantic. And then they won't be able to. There is no enjoyment in you know when they come into intimacy, or to be able to share their feelings with their husband. You know, they just keep everybody at, you know, arm's distance, and then keep your husband at arm's distance. You don't share what's on your mind. You don't share your real thoughts. You're only sharing what you want your husband to hear, and not what he needs to know. You know, and so
true.
Right. So that's something that, you know, is always has to be dealt with when it comes to women, because women are known to be very emotional. Men, we play it tough. We can, you know, we're supposed to be tough and strong and, you know, not necessarily share our emotions. But women are known to be emotional and creative creatures.
Right. But on the flip side of that, men, like you said, don't tend to be communicators. They tend to hold everything in. And so we're constantly trying to pull it out. You know, we're not mind readers. So we need you to communicate, to tell us what's going on. And also, you know, as men, we need you to be able to communicate to us as the female being who is emotional and be sensitive to that. So, you know, it's a lot to learn. Like I said, there are some skill sets that you need to learn to be able to have successful marriage.
So now,
can I jump in and add something?
Right after this, because now the thing is, we men have to be able to, you know, to be able to reflect and be open. But women also, now lately, women have been very staunch too. They don't want to share with their husbands. They have to be able to share and be honest.
Okay, share their feelings. Then.
Exactly.
Okay, let's clarify that so somebody that's watching make sure.
Their feelings. They have to be honest, but they also have to be able to look in the mirror and recognize that they do have faults and they do have issues, and recognize that they need some help as well, and not just hide it and then push it on the husband. Don't just dump on the husband and make it so. It's them that's causing the issues, them that cause the issue. But it's not them. It's like I said, it's that trauma or that drama in the past that you're expecting your husband to be the same person and bring about the same, you know, trauma and drama in the past. And it's not so. So if they don't get it, you know, dealt with, whether they need to see a psychiatrist or a counsel or a coach, and be able to open up and share those feelings.
Well, I think it's important on both ends for both the husband and the wife to make their homes that safe space where they can be vulnerable with one another And that happens and I understand that men, yeah, we all, Daniela says we can all be a little crazy.
We sure can be a little crazy, the women.
You know what? We have our moments, and you know what? Nobody's perfect, but it is important just to have that safe space in your home where you can be vulnerable and you can just say, you know what, honey, I'm in my feelings today. My husband, we had to learn how to deal with one another. He's learned to say, you having one of those days, and we have our little communication signs where he say, okay, you look like you're about to go from 0 to 100. What can I do? And we have to be comfortable enough with one another to do that, because sometimes they're so busy being strong and we're so busy, bearing the weight of the world on our shoulder, trying to take care of everybody else, that we're neglecting ourselves. So we're worn out. They're holding their feelings in. So, it's like, it's a battle,
Right.
Can I be comical
for disaster?
Can I be comical here? We men not only have to deal with the emotional things from the past, but God had made women that once a month they have that the hormones kick in, and that emotions and those dramas from the past are now escalated and emphasized. And what do you call it? What's the word where it becomes even more prevalent? Heightened.
Okay.
So we just need to pray for all the other men to be
You know what?
I just wanted to make everybody laugh out there.
Yeah, he's definitely been in the house too long. Honestly, though,
he lives with 2 women.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's honestly that it's really, really important, because and like Danielle said, it's an explosion waiting to happen.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, but when you have that safe zone, you make your home that safe zone, you're able to communicate with one another. Okay, I'm having a bad day. Be able to tell them, I'm in my feelings right now. I feel, like short of patience. And you have to have that safe zone. Because my husband, what I learned at first, I used to be irritated when he would crack jokes. But you know what? That was the easiest way to bring me from 100 back down to 0. We make each other laugh. We have fun. You have to enjoy, if you're going to be in a relationship with someone, whether it's dating or marriage, you need to enjoy your time together. You need to be able to connect. So that was his way of kind of helping. And it's a blessing, because for me, I was real like, just focus, wanting to get things done, focus on the family. And he's like, he brings the comic relief. He reduces the stress in the house.
You have to bring the emotion from the anger emotion to the laughter emotion.
Yeah, laughter is really, really important.
Right. Yeah. Without that, everything's going to be serious, and everything's going to be heightened with the high emotion and anger.
And low intelligence.
Right. And that's not what we want.
And that's so important, like you said, for couples to really focus in on having fun with each other, being each other's friend, loving each other unconditionally, and having that forgiveness. Those are keys to having a successful marriage. They're so important.
Well, yeah, if it's always dull and boring, and it's always traumatic, then either one of you, the wife will come home. She's not going to be looking forward to coming home if it's not a safe haven, if it's not a pleasurable, place to be. If it's always serious and there's no pleasure in it, you're like, I'm going out to party because it's my part, and to get some fun. You don't want to be bored all your life. You want to do something that you enjoy, and your spouse should be the one that you enjoy being with.
Absolutely.
Right. And if they're not, then there's an issue.
So I have a question for you, Kimberly. When you're interacting with your clients, or let's talk about the single women or the women that are dating, what role has that baggage played in their, being receptive to the roles or the tools and strategies needed to be a good wife? Because sometimes we allow our past baggage to define us where we are now, and where God's like, no, that was your past. I've forgiven you for your past, but we can't hold someone else responsible for that. But do you recognize that in lots of your clients, or what's your take on that?
Absolutely. It really starts with, like you said, recognizing, hey, that's the past, and recognizing that I'm going to need to let it go. But before letting it go, what's the lesson I can learn? What's the lesson I can learn so I don't make that same mistake, or again, keep carrying that pain with me, so I can let it go. That's ultimately what I have to do, is to let it go. Learn the lesson and let it go, so that, like you said, I'm not carrying it into the next relationship. I'm free. I'm light, right? And so a lot of times I have to get them to recognize, hey, you're carrying that, and you really need to just drop that right there. Take the lesson from it, because otherwise you're going to be repeating it in the next relationship. But let's let that go so that we can elevate and move on.
Yeah, that is true. That is so true. But I love what you said. Now let's talk about, like, for the single women that are looking to get back into the dating aspect and their ability to transition, because we talk, like you said, they're holding on to things. I'm trying to figure out a way to word this where it's like not offending somebody that's single. It's just, are you able to recognize when they're truly ready to transition from one role to another, from being single, being to a girlfriend, to a wife?
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. Yep. That's our job as life coaches, right? To be able to recognize when they're ready to move on to the next steps. If they're still holding on to stuff, if they have really mastered the skill, has there been a shift in that mindset? So it's important for us to be able to help them make that evaluation on if they're ready. And so again, that really is our job as coaches, to really help them get to that next level and to really help them look in the mirror and recognize those things that have been impeding them. You talk about dating. I'll do a shameless plug. I do have a free webinar coming up on Sunday, and it's called Learning How to Win at the Relationship Game. I'm paired with two other relationship coaches, Dr. Oliver T. Reed, who's a relationship architect, and Myra Figueroa Clark, who's the love expert. And so we're coming with the 6 secrets on how to win at the relationship game. I'm specifically going to be talking about the 6 common mistakes that women make when it comes to dating and preparing for marriage. And so you definitely want to come and be a part of that webinar on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I think the Eventbrite is up. It's SMS touchdown at eventbrite.com.
All right. So SMS touchdown.eventbrite.com. So you said it'll be Sunday night at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
8
That's
p.m.
Correct.
So you guys make sure we have the registration link across the screen. Make sure you take note and go ahead and register for it. I think that's going to be very powerful and very eye-opening. So now, for all of you guys out there that are listening, either live or via the replay, make sure you connect with Kimberly. And you said Oliver Reed. I remember Oliver.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the inner and outer man. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And then Myra's going to be talking to us about online dating, how to win in that online dating game.
Oh, wow. That's going to be awesome. So make sure you guys register for that. That sounds like that's going to be powerful. So that, I think.
We have a few comments out there. Let's see here. Daniela Coffey. Yes, I have learned to communicate that with my husband. Today, babe, I am in my feelings. Communicating
with him.
I just need you to listen and not express your opinion today.
Okay. Right. That's a really good point. There are times where men tend to be problem solvers.
We want to solve it.
But we have to be confident enough as wives to say, you know what, baby, I'm just really want to vent. I want to get this out. You know, I'm not looking for you to solve the problem. I'm just looking for you to listen. And
so just listen and don't say anything, because I'm always like wanting to resolve it or solve the issue. We want our wives to be happy. So sometimes they just need to vent. Yeah. We have another comment. Learn the lesson and let it go.
All right. I like that. Learn the lesson.
Chanel just commented. Let Jesus be you.
Be your husband first. Your first love. He will divinely connect you to the man he has given favor to.
The man, the woman that Hezekiah.
Man to find a wife.
Right.
That's a good thing. It obtains the favor of the Lord.
Yes.
She brought up a key point, and Kimberly, let's delve into that a little bit, because we talk about.
We have a question out there.
On a radio broadcast.
Yep.
Send a personal message and we'll get all the information out
Oh,
to
yes.
you
Mhm.
for all of us.
For all of us.
I forgot. Okay. Chanel made a comment saying, let Jesus be your husband first, your first love. He will divinely connect you to the man he has given favor to. And when she's just reading her comment, it's just making me think about the desire to connect with someone else in the form of a relationship, be it dating or be it in marriage. But sometimes we have that desire to be in that relationship sometimes supersedes the wisdom of listening to, when God is speaking to you. Because like she said, there's someone that God has designed for you, but sometimes we tend to overlook that. We ignore the red flags. So can we share with our listeners a little bit about that, in terms of just being able to patiently wait for the one that God has for you and being able to recognize them? Because when I met my husband, I didn't want to be bothered with anybody. But the fact is that I listened when God told me, be nice to everyone you meet that day. And that's totally contrary to the type of person I was. I was mean. I was going through a rough time. I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to date. So God had to tell me then. And I didn't even know it was God speaking to me back then. But I'm just like, be nice to everyone you meet today. Yeah, okay. And then when I met him and he backed the car up and started talking, first thing that I did, roll my eyes like I don't want to be bothered with you. And then I heard it again, be nice to everyone you meet. And then I shifted. So I started thinking, I was like, what if I had been disobedient to what God has been telling me? And sometimes God is speaking to us, but we're not always listening because things are not coming the way we want them to come. They're not packaged the way we want them to be packaged.
Right.
So we reject them. And so God's like, look, I'm sending this to you. And you're like,
miss your own blessing.
Right.
You know what? All right.
So good. It's so good. And again, it goes right back to where we started, that relationship with God, with Christ is so important first. Yeah. And the point that she made in terms of letting Christ be your husband first, you've got to let him be the Lord over your life. You got to be able to serve him. Let him be your husband. That's what that means. And so again, those are those wife skills, wife qualities that you need to learn. What better way to learn them than letting the Lord be your husband first, having that devotion and honor and respect. Again, that submission to the Lord first. That's really where you're going to, really have the practical application. Can you glorify him? Can you praise him? Can you worship him? Letting him be your Lord first is so important. And then, like you said, if you let him be your Lord first and are attuned to his voice, then you'll be able to know where he's leading you and guiding you, letting him prepare you so that you are ready. That's really what you do in that waiting season. You don't just sit there and do nothing. You sit there and continue to keep being a great woman. You continue to keep learning what he wants you to learn in terms of becoming that good thing. And let me tell you, I always tell women, God is not going to prepare you for something, prepare you for a purpose, and then not use you. A lot of women say, well, what if I go through all this and I prepare myself to be a wife and then I never get married? I said, you know what? You're speaking death. Stop speaking death, speak life. And I said, if God has prepared you for a purpose, if he has prepared you to be that good thing, wouldn't he be a terrible God not to just sit you on a shelf and not use you? I said, that's not God. Right. And so, yes, absolutely. Let God be your Lord first. And that's what you should be doing in that waiting season. Continue to get closer to God. Continue to keep working on you being the best version of you and learning what it means to be that good thing.
And now there's something that you said that was so key. And you have to forgive me out because a lot of times when I'm listening, all things start running through my head. But I'm thinking about the necessity or about forgiveness, because that to me is a huge role in being able to walk into a role of a wife, or even into the dating aspect, or just being a woman in general, the importance of being able to walk in forgiveness.
That is very important because now we just celebrated 22 years. And Yes, and then we've been together for over 26 years. So you can imagine that there have been a lot of times that we had to forgive each other on both sides.
Yeah.
Not just, most people think, man, always messing up. No, women do something. Women are beautiful, loving creatures, but they mess up too.
Yes, we're both imperfect.
We're all imperfect. And
We're imperfect beings. We need that grace and mercy from God, because we're in an intimate relationship with Him. We're going to need grace and mercy to be able to just make it through each and every day. He's very in tune with our frailties and our weaknesses. And that's why Christ had to come, right? Because we knew we were going to fail and miss the mark each and every day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what better, example of an intimate relationship than that, when you talk about husband and wife, you're walking together daily. You're vulnerable with each other. You know his weaknesses better than anybody else because you're walking with him 24/7, right? And because you know what his weaknesses are, it's going to require, and vice versa, he knows your weaknesses. It's going to require a lot of forgiveness, a lot of grace and mercy to be able to have this one flesh intimate relationship. Forgiveness is huge. It's two imperfect people coming together. It's going to require a huge amount of forgiveness daily.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's definitely going to take in the beginning. If we can get to a relationship in the beginning and teach them through the Wife University or Marriage Can Win Academy, teach those principles that you need and those strategies. So when you do come up to something, that it needs to be some forgiveness, that you be able to be open, honest, and be willing. And that's something that we've learned over the 22 years of being married is that you have to make the effort and you have to be willing to make the effort. Sometimes you have to be willing to take pride, down and put it aside and ask for forgiveness or even apologize, admit when you're wrong, admit, that you were the cause of it, and apologize, so that takes a lot and it means a lot when you can actually apologize to your spouse and really admit up to your wrongdoing. And so you got to go a long ways with your spouse. Your spouse is like, wow. It shows that you really care about them. It shows that you really care about the relationship and that you really want it to work. So when you have two individuals that come together and they really show and make the effort and really show each other that you really love and you really care and you really want this relationship to work, that's when, that right there is really half the battle.
Right. Oh, that is so true. That is so true.
That is, now a lot of times, I'm gonna stay on track because I'm about to but that's because this is a key to my heart, because these types of conversations did not exist when I was younger.
Right.
You have relationships that are struggling. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. Some are in ministry, some are outside of ministry.
Right.
They're fearful that someone's going to say, oh, well, you're pastor such and such, deacon such, and you're struggling in your marriage. Yes, we have struggles too. But we have so many couples out there that are suffering in silence that need these conversations. Yes, we make it light and laugh about it, but these are real conversations, real issues that need to be addressed. Trust me, we're not up here doing these lives day in, day out for no reason. It's because there's a need. A lot of things that we dealt with in our marriage, I really wish there would have been a platform to be able to just be honest with someone. Look, I'm struggling in this area. Learning forgiveness is that's a strategy right then and there. Recognizing your imperfections, learning to make your home a safe space for your spouse, being able to communicate effectively. And like Kimberly was saying, you have to have that self-love. That's really, really important, to have that relationship with God first and foremost. Now, we make jokes about it, but one thing we don't play about is the importance of God in our relationship. Oh, yes. Had it not been for God, I don't know where we'd be right now, to be completely transparent.
And one thing too about us is we had that defining moment in our marriage. That we have been working with couples for about 15 years in ministry, and doing a lot of premarital counseling, premarital teaching classes. And then, we've about 5 years now, we've been coaching, and we've been coaching couples and providing just advice and providing the resources. And so a lot of the things that we've been seeing over the 15 years of working with couples in and out of ministry, we see a lot of commonalities in the issues. And so when we see those commonalities and the issues in those couples, we also experience them ourselves. And then we see, oh, wow, we've seen this before. So in the midst of something that we were getting ready to argue about, we're like, wait a minute. We've coached somebody and we've helped somebody to go get through this same exact issue, and it's trying to eat its way through our relationship. Yeah. And so we recognize it, and then we attack it, and we deal with it. And so, that's one thing about being in a relationship is if you recognize something that you've been going through in the past, when you come upon it again, you should know how to deal with it. So always, and we always tell couples, especially if you've been divorced once or twice, look at what happened, what went wrong in the past, so you won't repeat that again, and you know how to deal with that issue so it won't become a game changer and when you lose the game.
Right. That's so key. I always tell women when they're looking for a husband, you want to look for somebody who's a problem solver, because life is going to throw you problems, right? Yeah. And can you problem solve together is so key. And so you have to take a look at that. You have to take a look in the mirror and say, how good of a problem solver am I? Because again, he wants to know, are you bringing good problem solving skills to the table? So what you said was just so key about really being honest about where you are. Have you experienced this? Why do I keep going through this? Time out. Let me figure out what the lesson is so I don't keep repeating this.
Wow.
So I have a question. At what point in your life, and you may have mentioned it, but I want to reiterate that. At what point in your life did you say, oh man, this is my defining moment? Or you may say, this is an aha moment where I want to, that it made a change, and you also had that passion, like, oh, I want to become a coach and help, you find out your purpose and your mission.
Absolutely. It really was after that second divorce. Like I said, the first one almost took me out. So the second one really brought me to my knees. I mean, I was hanging on by a thread. To be honest, the only thing that kept me going through it and waking up each and every day was my son. I was pregnant with my son, and I said, if for nothing else, I have to go on for my son, right? Because he was all I had. I was all he had. And so that really, like I said, when I got down on my knees that day and threw up my hands and said, Lord, please show me how to go on. That was a defining moment for me. Because I said, rebuild to me your divine design. Because like I said, it's kind of like a person who always dreamed about being in the Olympics, or being a doctor, and then something happening and they not being able to attain that. That's what it was like for me. That's how devastating it was. I had to walk around with the shame and the guilt. And I just got tired of carrying it. I just really got tired of carrying the shame and the guilt and wearing the scarlet letter across my chest. And I said, you know what? No more. And I said, God, please reveal to me what your divine design was. And that was it. And when he said, you're going to be a coach and you're going to be helping other people not to go through what you went through, helping them to have happy and successful marriages. You're going to, you love. And so you're going to use that passion to help and serve others.
That's a true testament, and it shows, and that's a great example, as well as my wife. You actually heard the voice of God, and you persevered through your current situation to get through it, and also gain experience that you're going to help in your mission and what your purpose is in life. And look where you are today. You're helping other women. You're teaching. You are a living example of someone who has gone through, traumatic experiences and a defining moment in your life, and you didn't let that define you in a negative way, but it defined you in a positive way that is also now used to affect others, and to go through their defining moment. So,
and I really what it was is I was really just tired of being the victim, of carrying that shame and guilt and that scarlet letter, and everyone's like, oh my God, she's been divorced. Not only has she been divorced, she's been divorced twice. And you said, I finally got tired of just being depressed. And I was like, you know what? I'm just sick and tired of being the victim. And so I really just took control and said, and it really was having that conversation too with the devil, like, you're not going to leave me in this shame anymore. I'm not going to be ashamed anymore. I'm not going to walk around with this cloud over my head. I knew my intentions were good. I knew that, we suffer because we just don't know. And when I could say that to myself, Kim, you didn't know what you didn't know. And now you know. I was empowered. I was no longer a victim.
Wow. And what you're saying is so key. A lot of times the things that we're experiencing, it's not about us, it's about the people that we're called to serve. Yes. So now you have an amazing testimony. And a lot of times when we're going through it, trust me, it feels like, God, why am I going through this? But there's purpose on the other side of that. And what we're called to do is going to be on the other side of that discomfort, that pain, that frustration. But we come out stronger. We come out more equipped, and now you can go back and help others.
Yes.
So to me, that is such a blessing. Trust me, when we go through our moments, I'm like, oh my God, seriously. But the funny thing about it is a lot of times we'd have a challenge, and then next thing you know, somebody would be coming up to us in church or marriage ministry and say, hey, my husband and I are going through this. Oh, really? Okay. It's like, okay, because imagine if we had not gone through it, we didn't have the tools. Right. How can you help them through it? It's like, I got a question mark over my head just like you have. Right. But no, we don't know everything.
Right.
By all means, I'm not saying we know everything, but God will equip you when you're going to be in those situations and the people that you're called to serve. It's like, okay, now let me share with you what I did. It doesn't mean that my way is perfect, but it gives them that hope that, like, wow, she was able to navigate it. Doesn't mean it was a pretty situation. Right. Doesn't mean it was a perfect situation. But the fact is she came out of it and she came out stronger.
Well, the thing is, of course, you have your experiences that you can share and then you can be relatable.
Yeah.
But you also have strategies and tools and even tips. So it may be something that you never experienced before, but you have a way to tackle it. Yeah. And then when you share that with someone else, you've helped them, so they have something, they're equipped to deal with situations because there's always going to be some new things and things are going to come at you. Devil's going to come at you in all kinds of different ways and it gets sneaky and sneak up on you. But now you know how to approach that situation. But this has been a great show tonight, and we're wrapping it up tonight.
Oh
but
my
before
gosh,
we go,
it's been almost an hour. I can't believe it. This has been amazing.
Yes, can you share a little bit about some of your webinars, your trainings, and et cetera? I know you were talking about the one that you can go to the event, Bright, but also share how can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my website is thewifeuniversity.com. You can find me on social media on Instagram and Facebook at The Wife University. And most definitely, if you'd like to reach out to me, if you need support as you're on this journey to becoming a good thing, or if you're already a wife and just want to take your wife game to the next level, you can reach out to me directly and email me at thewifeuniversity@gmail.com. I always like to tell wives, because a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know that you also help wives. Yes, I do, because I'm a firm believer in self-development. I'm a firm believer in never thinking that you've arrived, right? You're always going to be going through different seasons in your marriage. And so you've got to be preparing for that next season. You should always be striving to be better than you were yesterday. And so again, the Wife University is there to help single women become and wives be that good thing.
Awesome.
So I have one question. Can you share with us, like in the next minute or so, that we have just your greatest tip or strategy on how marriages can win?
Oh, absolutely. You know, my greatest idol, or I should say example, was my grandparents. They were married over 60 years. And
Wow.
one thing my grandfather used to always say is, I'm not leaving and I'm not being left. And so we're going to sit here and we're going to figure this out. And that's really what I want to say to whether you're single, whether you're married, whatever you're going through, do not give up. Stay committed. Again, make sure you're listening to God. We have all the answers. We have a manual. It's called the Bible. The answers are there. And so again, you can have a successful marriage. You can win at marriage. Just go back to the blueprint.
Awesome.
That's just awesome. Well, everybody, we really appreciate you coming out. And if you're just coming on, you can catch the replay. Also, we like to know what city and state that you're located. So just put it in the chat. Now, remember, you can catch the Marriage Can Win show also every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on the Love Radio Network. Also, we have the dating show.
Date night with the Highlands.
Yes. And that's on every Friday and Saturday from 8 to 9 p.m. And that's right before it gets to midnight love. So remember, now here's something too. Also, you can also listen to the radio show on Alexa. All you have to do is say, enable the Love Radio Network 24, and you can listen to the show on Alexa.
Yeah.
Also, the loveradionetwork.com 24.
And that's love, L-U-V, not L-O-V-E.
All right. So Terry's from Atlanta, GA. Well, thanks for joining us, Terry.
All right. Thank you to Chanel, to Daniela, to Debbie. We have so many wonderful people. We just thank you so much for your support of the mission. Kimberly, thank you for being a guest on the show. We will have to have you back. We're going to have to definitely connect and collaborate on some future projects.
Absolutely. Love to.
Guys, don't forget to register. She has an event. If you can click on that and put that on the web. Coming up the relationship game, correct? Go ahead, make sure you go to that website and register. And just remember that you guys can be the change that you want to see in your relationships. And we will see you next time.